sure you were answering that one just fine.
You already said before you got here that you have some thoughts on this. It's really just that the subject was what's going to happen with the next round of collective bargaining. Steve said they don't have pattern bargaining in Indianapolis, and it has pros and cons to it.
Indeed it does. Is this on? Yeah. My apologies for being a little late. I was taking my daughter to school, so thank you for indulging us. You know, look, the reality is that we are not in a position to give generous raises or, at least in the current year, any kind of raises at all. And that's just the fiscal reality. When the city had more resources, the mayor believed that those resources should be shared with our employees to ensure that we got the best possible workforce, and that we were able to partner with the teachers in a lot of reforms that were meaningful and helped propel our school system forward. But in the current climate, it's probably not possible. So I wouldn't be optimistic about it.
What about the effort to get a new pension tier, which the mayor has been increasingly vocal about, but there hasn't even been a bill introduced by anybody in the legislature? Do you think that the change in the legislature is going to include a plan for that? That's really either one of you.
Well, we'll both answer that. I'll do the procedural stuff and you can do the alternates. So we have a pretty active working group on pensions, looking at the current situation, looking at the range of options, looking at the various tiers and what they've done. It's occupied a fair amount of time, working groups and consultants and Howard and I are working on this together. We do this in two different ways. And I'm just a Hoosier politician, so Howard's going to handle Albany. I'm just going to handle kind of the day-to-day work.
When he says that, you've got to look through your wallet.
So, first of all, we're trying to examine every one of the procedural issues in the current pension system, right? So there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of reforming the pensions, and Howard and I are working with those. No comment about those at Albany, but as it relates to Albany. But we need to make sure there are a number of things that are assumed in the way the pension boards work, and the way disability is determined, and the way doctors do their work, and fill in the blank, right? And every dollar counts, right? Every single dollar counts. It comes from some taxpayer in the city of New York, right? And I come from a situation where I believe that the culture of the government workforce and the way government does its business counts. And so we're going to go through and look at every one of those circumstances and look at how the boards operate and who appoints the people to the boards and how well presented they are and how they make their determinations and all of the like, right? And now it is true that constitutionally we can't go back and change any of the benefits, but we can at least make sure that the current set of benefits is administered in a correct way. That's one. Two, we have a series of thoughts, relatively well defined, that would make a difference going forward. We think are important to the future of the city, and we'll hopefully, with your support, be presenting those in Albany. Now, your turn.
Well, I think everyone in this room probably is aware that unless some corrective action is taken soon, New York City runs the risk of becoming General Motors, in the sense that we'll be assuming a debt to retirees that is not sustainable in the context of what current taxpayers are willing to pay. In a couple of years, we will be at about 1/8, right, Steve, of our budget for pensions and health care for retirees, and that is not sustainable. The city's in the business of delivering services to the people who live here. We pay people to do that. We pay them well. We have the best workforce in the country. But we cannot allocate 1/8 of our budget to people who are no longer working for the city and delivering those services. So we intend to make an aggressive push to address this situation before it overwhelms us. And I think there is a growing awareness on the part of legislators and probably some union leaders, especially private sector union leaders, that's something we needs to be done.
So if Jill dedicates so much time, energy, and money kind of the future of New York City, let me just kind of put a punctuation on Howard's comment. We would like this to become more more dramatic to the public, so there'd be some support for change. So eventually what will happen, right, is that if unchecked, the quality of New York City services will go down. Because every year, a higher percentage of the operating budget goes to pay people who are retired. So the only way to pay the folks who are retired, since they're constitutionally protected, is to lay off the people who are working today. Police officers, eventually teachers, sanitation workers, everybody. And when Mayor Bloomberg started, I think the numbers are off a little bit, but there was probably 8 years ago $1.5 billion a year that went for the pension hole, and this year we're going to be over $7 billion. And then there's about 7 or 8 billion more that go for the medical costs, right? So those are really big numbers, and so it's not very difficult. You don't have to be an alarmist to say it's going to affect the quality of city services if we don't resolve this thing. Now, we can't resolve it retrospectively, but if we can figure out how to bring it in line going forward, then at least you can kind of understand how to fix the city's budget going in that direction. So we would like to make this a little bit more visible and get the thing in check. And this may be the one time in a half a century where we can actually move in the right direction.
On the healthcare and retiree healthcare issue, CBC issued a report a couple of months ago about the union welfare funds. This flat per capita amount that is paid to the unions to administer a bunch of different health funds, and we suggested that it might be appropriate now and could save a lot of money if they were consolidated and treated as part of health benefits. Have you looked at that report, and is the adjustment of the union welfare funds part of what you're analyzing, as you described, in terms of your analysis?
Yeah, it was a great report, and I totally agree with the recommendation. We are analyzing what we can do about it. Obviously, you can't just decide to do it. It takes a few kind of complicated steps. The union administered funds are complicated for a number of reasons. A, there's generally a lack of accountability, but B, we're trying to evaluate our total medical spend. And our pharmacy spend is in that category, and our medical spend is on the other side that we're spending. And if you said, well, most companies, large multinational, large U.S. companies manage their health spend by kind of trying to manage the health of their workers, trying to look at how those spends work together. We can't do any of those things. We can do very little in terms of kind of progressive management, so long as those funds are separated. So it's not just that they're managed in kind of an unaccountable way. It's difficult for us to kind of pull those things together. So it's actively on the list of things we're examining. I'm not sure exactly quite how to get there. So any suggestions you have would be appreciated.
Okay, Howard is here, so let's go back to the broader question that I saved. Howard, you're the communicator. Yeah, you're the communicator. So communicate to us what the goals and the legacy of the third term of the Bloomberg administration are.
Well, I think some of it is what we're talking about here. The mayor is determined to leave the city government in better shape than when he found it. And he found it in pretty good shape. I want to give credit to his predecessors, but we're determined to leave it in better shape than the next mayor. And this issue of pensions, I'll come back to it. It will be a very important legacy issue for this mayor. If we do not change, the mayor's not running for anything, he's not running for re-election, so he doesn't have to worry about political capital going into the next election. And we are going to take this issue on. As somebody who's not running for re-election, maybe you can take it on a little differently than somebody who is. He doesn't have to worry about courting the support of labor or others going into another election. So putting the pension issue right and putting the city's fiscal state in a sounder footing will be very, very important to the mayor's legacy. A couple of other areas. The mayor's passionate about education. He is passionate about the reforms that we have instituted here. He believes that we can go farther. He believes that there is more to do to revolutionize the city school system, working with Joel Klein, who I think has been the best chancellor of any school system in this country. And he wants to continue the progress that we've made on education and have every parent in the school system 3.5 years from now saying, this is the kind of quality school system that I'd like to send my child. And then, there are other areas in which we've made progress and want to continue to make progress. Crime, got to keep crime low. Mayor understands that all of the good things that have happened in the city in the last decade and a half are as a result of the foundation we built on low crime. And keeping crime low is critically important. And then all of this is in the context of at least flat or diminishing resources. This is not, we are not in the 7, fat years. We are in the 7 lean years. And we have to make do with less. We've got to do more with less. That's one of my colleagues' areas of expertise. He's the leading figure in the country on this. If you didn't introduce him that way, I will. No one knows more about government efficiencies than Stephen does. This mayor is going to have to manage the delivery of services that people in the city have now come to expect with fewer resources than he had 3 or 4 years ago. And that's just a fact. It's a good thing, frankly, that we all, the people of the city, believe that city government can deliver resources effectively and fairly and honestly. People living in the city now have a level of expectation about what the city can do that we did not have in the 70s or 80s. We expect that the parks are going to be good. We expect that the trash is going to be picked up. We expect that the schools are going to be good. We expect that crime is going to be low.